could you start by just introducing yourself and how you got involved in clean tech investment?
Right. Hi, my name is Robert Hokin. I'm managing partner for Greenbackers Investment Capital. We formed officially in 2013. We had an iteration called EcoConnect prior to that. My background, my backstory, it's a Chicago accent that you're hearing, but I've been in the UK for over 30 years. My first roles were in technology venturing and technology development with ABB, WorldCom, and GEC Marconi. When Marconi flamed out of the FTSE around 2002, then I was helping sell off parts of the company. And then I uh, exited, became a company corporate troubleshooter, got involved in an SME startup, totally unrelated industry to what I do today. We took it from nothing to about seven and a half million turnover in about 18 months. So it was a bit of a white knuckle roller coaster ride, but great induction into some of the challenges of starting up a small business. And I was looking for the next thing. This is around 2005, and I crashed headlong into clean tech as that asset class was forming in around 2005, and I've been in it ever since.
2005. Okay, that's quite a long journey in clean tech then, actually.
My hair was a lot darker when I started.
So can you explain, you set up Greenbackers, you're one of the founding partners. Why did you decide to set up your own sort of investment and accelerator company?
We were noting that when we started into the climate and clean tech space, it was very much seen as well, that's nice, that's alternative asset class, kind of a nice to have. ESG was not a thing. Socially responsible investing was not a thing yet. But I always saw it, and my partners see it, as an economic, environmental, and societal necessity.
Mm.
But the entrepreneurs we were also seeing who invent and develop these technologies were struggling and continue to struggle to access private capital and gain adoption of their products and services. So we thought we could assist these companies to navigate that path to funding faster, more effectively. May have heard the expression "valley of death," and that's the gap between an initial pot of funding, and companies may start to plateau and be starved of capital if they're not commercializing quick enough, and they enter what's called the valley of death as they're trying to get more funding. We live and breathe. We find water in the valley of death. We're pathfinders in that area, and we're very passionate about catalyzing the investment needed to make things happen, to build a more sustainable society.
So would you say in the last 15 years or so, you said that it started out, clean tech at the time was sort of a nice to have, but probably wasn't as prominent in the investor space or in the media or just the public mindset as it is today. What are investment trends that have changed? What are the current investment trends and how have they changed over time?
There's a huge awareness now, and there's been a number of things. There's been pressure on boards to be more receptive and more proactive as far as the sustainability agenda is concerned. Fossil fuels have come out of favor. The climate agenda is front and center. There's much more public awareness of that, and funds are finally seeing the economic opportunity involved in investing in net zero. These elements were absent as recent as 5 years ago, but they have come into play in a huge way. There's a tidal wave of potential and pent up capital waiting to come into the sector. But the innovation side of things, the early stage companies that are coming up with great programs may not necessarily know how to access it. So we're kind of in the middle of that dynamic. Governments are focused on net zero. Corporates are trying to green their supply chain. Investors are looking for the next level of returns. So, there's a lot of pull through now in the industry space for these types of programs.
And where do you see the biggest in green tech investment opportunities right now?
There's a lot happening. We're seeing some hot spots in e-mobility, hot spots in hydrogen production, and green hydrogen. Uh, uh, there's opportunities in agritech, and the convergence of AI, so intelligence, computer generated intelligence, and farming is an interesting space. The oceans have become a hot spot as well. So ocean tech is an area that we're interested in. It's not just offshore renewables, but it's a supply chain around that as well. So clean tech is quite broad. It's sometimes it's mistaken as energy generation, but it's much wider than that. We're talking about use and reuse of materials, recycling, waste, water. There's a lot of stuff going on in all these sectors, and we're touching quite a number. I mean, we're tracking about 2,000 companies right now. We're cabled into about 150 accelerators. There's all kinds of stuff happening, and it all can be profitable.
Yeah. So, is there any particular development around ocean tech or innovation that you are excited about? I just watched Seaspiracy, and eating fish is now off the cards for me. But it definitely, rings the alarm on just the awful situation, complete lack of regulation in the space, and the risk that it poses to us all. It's not just sea life. It's if current fishing trends continue, I think it said by 2048 the oceans will be empty, and we all know if the oceans die, we die as well. So, is there anything which shines a bit of light in the ocean tech space?
There's quite a bit. I mean, there's the one of the challenges is there's still the oceans are platforms now for energy production, and making sure that that production is sustainable as well is something that we look at. There are technology solutions that can provide not as generation of large-scale renewable electricity, but actually power at sea to be able to help certain technologies such as underwater ROVs work. There's also agritech happening in the sea, and I'm not talking about renewable fish stocks. But there's some interesting things happening in food production, in taking seaweed or kelp. I was reading today about a Spanish restaurant owner who's trying to commercialize a tiny green grain clinging to the base of eelgrass. I'd never heard of eelgrass, but we're very interested in innovation in foodstuffs. There can be agricultural solutions that are ocean-based for land-based consumption. It's not necessarily restricted to human consumption, but animal feeds. So there's I think there's an expression. There's a lot of life in the long tail, and in areas that you wouldn't think would be interesting technology wise. That there's a lot of growth.
Interesting. All right, so moving on to some of the nitty gritties of investment. Um, First, what sort of companies would you most like to receive pitches from?
Well, we get about 1,000 a year, and we typically look at seed stage, so they have raised a round of funding previously to prove their concept. Series A, which are scaling up opportunities, and Series B, which are profitable, working on volume sales, refining their business model going forward. So not necessarily concept or bootstrapped proof of concept companies, but companies that have had some sort of validation by the market for what they're doing. They've raised a round of funding and they're looking to grow.
Mm. And do you have a rule of thumb for determining which companies you would recommend for investment? I know you said you look for companies that already have some kind of proof of concept and a bit of market traction, but if you saw a company that wanted funding and you thought, okay, yes, this one looks really good, I would recommend them. What would their pitch look like?
There's a bit of a number of dynamics that come into play. So we're looking at the technology and making an assessment on its viability, its defensibility. So are there patents in place, or is there a licensing arrangement that is pretty secure? And can the technology actually address a definable problem or market need? So then we go into what is the market? What's the addressable market? How global is it? How local is it? How defined is it? And what's the potential of that company to actually capture a segment of the market? We look at the management and their ability to perform, their skill sets. It's quite often that that a team that is adept at commercializing a technology and bringing it to market may not be the types of skill sets to help a program scale up. So the technology, the team, the addressable market, the financial fundamentals of the business, and how those are being managed, and then the overall plan, the milestones that the company have met, and the ones that they hope to meet and are planning to meet in the future. Investors like to see milestones.
Mm, yeah. And do you have a success story out of the different companies you've seen that you've helped to get funding, which you can share?
Yeah, I mean, how many would you like?
Let's just say your most outstanding entrepreneur or clean tech success story.
One of the companies that we're very keen on is an outfit. They were in the EV charging space. About 3-4 years ago, electric vehicles weren't even being shown on commercials, and now every other commercial, or just about every commercial, is an electric vehicle, or at least a hybrid. But they're all dependent on charging stations, and one of the companies that we supported in their early days was an outfit called Ingenie. Now it's called Osprey. They rebranded, and we helped them raise a Series A funding round. We took them to an investment bank that we knew was interested in the space. Since then, they've been rapidly rolling out charging spaces, infrastructure across the whole of the UK. They've been bought out by an infrastructure fund, so there was a successful exit for the initial investor, which is always good news, because if it's an investment bank, they're going to recycle the capital. I'd say that's a great success story. Company that is going places, investors that came in and invested in the company and made money from it. And this is a technology program that is helping the faster rollout of electric vehicles, which I think are critical to the transportation space in the UK going forward. So it's kind of a triple win.
Yeah, nice. And what are the most common investment mistakes that you've seen, or the biggest pitfalls or failures?
Failures of investors?
Yeah, I would say failures of investors, or it could be the failure of the company, a company which just didn't pan out.
Well, let's. I mean, it could be a tale of tell us two stories, and very different stories. For companies, it is potentially focusing on the money
Mhm.
on an investment and not on the resources that an investor can bring to the table. It can be more than money. It can be introductions. It can be supporting the team. Uh, for investors, it's being able to make a positive contribution to the board, and being able to allow the company to breathe. Uh, uh, I would say most of the investors that we deal with are professional. They add value, but there are some that may try to hothouse their investment, and push the company too fast, too far, in an interest to get an exit in, say, 3 to 5 years. Clean tech, I think, benefits from more patient capital, but uh, investors have their own realities and expectations of their limited partners, and have their own challenges to keep their own investors happy. So we kind of understand that, but I think that sometimes there is a rush to push a company from the investment side before they're ready.
Mm. Yeah. So, if there was a young entrepreneur who wanted to get funding for his clean tech social enterprise, what would your advice be to him?
Look at your narrative. There's a lot of guidance that is out there, and that we and others can provide, as far as how to uh, put a good pitch deck together, explain the problem, solution, how you address the solution, how you're going to make money for the investor. I think a lot of companies, a lot of technologists focus on the tech. That's important, but also the commercial model and how they're going to grow, and how they're going to attack the market. There's an expectation that any good pitch deck will be accompanied by a video. I don't think you need to get lost in the format and the technology of making videos these days. You can even record a Zoom interview along the lines of what we're doing today. There is a lot of support out there for startups. If you can, attach yourself to an accelerator, an incubator. Try to get a corporate sponsor in place as well. That can certainly help your investability going forward. And there are advisors out there that can help you. I mean, we're very focused on climate and clean tech, but for others that are not necessarily tech focus, if they have a service, there's certainly other advisors out there that can help.
All right. Okay, so I'll move on to a couple more personal questions
Okay.
before we wrap up. But actually, is there anything else that you want to add on the investment clean tech side of things?
Well, as you know, there is a strong focus this year in the UK on the climate summit on COP26, and I'll take this opportunity to make a plug for that. We are strongly engaged as a Scottish-based business in the COP, working with Scottish government to help technology companies that are looking to accelerate and help them get funding. So we have a COP26 super pitch that we are progressing right now. We've got a lot of companies that are clamoring to get into that, but we always have room for more. We will select 26 companies that we think are suitable for our investor network. And then our job is to go out and get them funded from May when we launch the program until November when the COP actually takes place. And then we'll be looking to showcase these companies at our super pitch in November at the COP. So if you know of any good companies that are developing technology or have developed technology and they're looking for seed or Series A funding, we'd love to know about them.
All right, great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about which companies make it into the final round, as I imagine it'll be quite a stringent selection process. So that'll
It
be.
is. It is. We're going to put, but we'll put them through their paces, and there's some fantastic companies that we're already seeing, coming into the application space.
Nice. All right. Do you have a favorite quote or life motto?
Suppose usually when I close off a conversation, it's onwards and upwards. I have seen a lot of challenges in this sector, but I'm an incurable optimist. I am gratified for what I see is increased focus on our sector. And I tend to tell my team, we'll get in life what we focus on. So for me, it's all about execution. It's easy to make promises, but at the end of the day, you have to perform. We just try to do it in a positive way. I don't know if that if that equivocates into a tagline or a motto, but that hopefully that gives you an insight.
Onwards and upwards. And I think it's a good one for anyone working in anything clean or green tech related, because there are so many obstacles to innovating in general and to bringing something new, that you have to be a bit of an optimist just to believe that you can do it and you can overcome those obstacles and find a path forward.
Completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. And I would say that most of the companies that we work with would feel the same way, even if they don't articulate it in quite that way.
Yeah. Okay, so when you are not busy at work, what do you do when you want to relax or take a day off? I know that it's hard to answer this question now with COVID.
My wife would probably agree with you. It's I tend to I'm a recovered sailor, so I used to be out on the water. At one point, I used to skipper tall ships before I got into technology, and that was a time of my life. But I don't do that anymore. I'd say most, personally, I walk. We used to be social before lockdown, and we look forward to being social again. There's only so much you can do when you're restricted geographically. Love travel and the exchange of ideas that can come through through that, and hope to do it again. We have a strong German bias. My wife is a historical fiction writer. She writes about World War II and post World War II. So Berlin is a focus. We have a son that lives over there, and we'll probably start to spend 2 months a year in Berlin. So I actually get to see him, and also there's a great tech scene there, and a great funding support ecosystem in Germany that I'd love to get closer to. So we might have some travel in the future, but for now, with the COP, with the rest of our program, got a lot to keep us busy. So sometimes that bleeds into my weekends.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. I'm half German myself, but I'm my family's based in South Germany, so I actually haven't made it to Berlin yet, which people are always shocked by when they hear I'm half German, but I'll have to go for sure. So as a final question, this is something I ask all of my green techpreneur interviewees. Where do you see yourself in the future in 10 years time or 20 years time? And this is if you could be anywhere doing anything. So you could
Something
your imagination could come into play.
I hope that I will be able to string sentences together in 20 years time. For me, this is the only game in town. I fully expect to be you're working past retirement age in this space. I'm not the retiring type, and I love what I do. I love the companies and the exchanges of ideas and helping these companies go and grow. For me, this sees me out until what between my ears turns into mashed potatoes. You'll see me in 5, 10, 15 years still in this space. We're looking to launch a fund next year of our own, so we'll move from fund brokers into investors ourselves. That's going to be a 50 to 100 million pound fund, investing in some of the companies that we're already helping with. So a lot to do. I don't see actually doing anything else other than what I'm doing for the foreseeable future.